Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Author's Corner, a creative writing group of students in the Mathematics and Science Academy at UTRGV. My name is Amy Frazier, a lecturer in the Department of Writing and Language Studies, who launched this program under the leadership of Dr. Wilma Smetter, Principal of MSA, along with the much appreciated assistance of Melissa Peña-Montes, MSA's Program Manager. After studying creative writing in Oxford, I applied my newly acquired skills to write and publish a novelette entitled Brujeria in South Texas, scheduled to be released this year in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookstore outlets in the U.S. and the U.K. Since its inception of Author's Corner at the onset of spring semester 2020, I mentored, coached, and instructed a dynamic group of students with a propensity to author intriguing stories. Everyone has a story to tell. The key element, paramount in creative writing, lies in the ability to tell a good story that comes from the heart, mind, and soul of the individual, whose uniqueness is tantamount to a person's fingerprints. No two stories are exact duplicates in its originality. Even a subtle change in a similar theme adds nuance and dimension to a story that yields unexpected outcomes and an element of surprise that often allows the characters to come alive, leading the author to explore a new direction he never imagined. Currently in our 5th consecutive semester, MSA students continue to produce entertaining short stories and fiction published in the Writer newspaper. We are so excited and honored to engage for the first time this semester as participants in UTRGV's Vaquero Radio. Thank you for this opportunity. We hope you enjoy hearing today's oral presentation. The spotlight shines on one of our talented students as Writing Warrior of the Week in Author's Corner.
Yellow House in a Broken Town by Reese. A chill swept the fractured gravel street, and our boots scraped as we ran. Well, we weren't really running, but it was cooler if we were running. "Keep up," a brusque voice barked back at me. My eyebrows shot up at the bite in his tone, but more so from the icy gust that blasted me in the face. "I am keeping up," I exclaimed indignantly. I turned to fling a winning grin at the guy who spoke to me, but he just shook his head with a deep sigh. "Hey, Mr. Ryder," I added, "why are we the only people out here?" The cool dude slightly ahead of me slowed and cocked his head back half an inch. Deep shadows lengthening around the houses obscured most of his visage, but I could see a sliver of one of his sharp, brown eyes. "They don't want to dare open their doors, kid," came my only response. Then Mr. Ryder stared dead ahead, and I couldn't see either of his eyes. My jittery hazel ones widened and my mouth dropped all the way open, like my jaw hit the ground. "Oh," I told him, "you're kidding!" My fear vanished at the apparency of this, and I straightened right back up and jogged to his side. "Sure," Mr. Ryder said after a minute. His silence dug into me, and the wind swirled around us. Flocks of autumn leaves scuttled over our muddy leather boots, and they refused to calm down. Even as they settled across the rocky gravel road, they shivered, quivering in the setting sun. The chill and silence swelled until even I didn't want to dare break the quiet, and I adored speaking. I turned my hazel gaze upward and peered into the distant horizon. A squat, yellowish house sat perched in the distance, and it blinked innocently back through its black shutters and window frames. A far-off curtain swayed from inside the depths. Half of the frayed blue curtain snagged on the shattered glass frame where that window used to be. "Hey, we're almost there!" I called out in a loud voice, forgetting myself as usual. My shout echoed across the dampening street and faded, repeating my thoughtless words to every boarded-up house on that block. "Keep quiet," Mr. Ryder hissed at me. I caught a frantic shock in his eyes, which he masked by adding, "and stay right by my side." "I am an adult, you know, Mr. Ryder," I piped up, thrusting a proud thumb at my chest. "A real man." "Barely," Mr. Ryder grunted under his breath. "Silence." "What?" "Be silent!" I mouthed the word, "oh," to adhere to his request, but it was too late anyway. Somewhere behind me, though it could have been beside or maybe above me, a cloak dragged across the ragged stones. My heart leapt into my throat and I sucked in a sharp breath. My eyes whipped up to Mr. Ryder's. My tight curly hair tumbled across my face, but still, I caught him shake his head slightly at me. "Don't stop," his eyes said. "Do not stop. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop!" I could do that. I thrust my shoulders up to the brassy sky and marched on close at his broad side. As full-grown adults, monsters in cloaks didn't scare us one little bit. Mr. Ryder touched my shoulder. I thought it might be the monster, so I let out a deafening, ringing shriek. My high scream tore across the icy street, and I practically felt Mr. Ryder cursing my name. So much for that cloak dragging. I heard definite pounding footsteps stalking us now, and even I didn't want to dare turn around. I tried to keep on marching strong, but Mr. Ryder grabbed me by the arm and thrust me into a run. "Run!" he screamed at me. "Don't bother with being quiet. Run!" So run I did. I ducked my chin to my chest and pelted at that silent house with all my might. Granted, I was only about 5 foot. Mr. Ryder had to pick me up a couple times and fling me ahead so I could move at the correct speed, but I ran anyways. The craggy, rubbled town blurred around me as we sprinted, and a stabbing stitch burst to life on the left side of my ribcage. My fingers scrabbled at my shirt, but that didn't do anything, and I hoped Mr. Ryder wouldn't resort to picking me up and carrying me in. Suddenly our feet thudded as we went pounding across the yellow house's stone pathway. "We made it!" I gasped, coughing and spluttering. "Not yet, we didn't," Mr. Ryder told me, not winded in the least. My boots kicked up 2 exquisite bluish rocks, and I fell forward along the sweeping footpath. I could hear the slapping footfalls of that ravenous beast behind us, could feel its putrid breath on my neck. I felt Mr. Ryder's calloused hand give me one last shove, and I stumbled forward so hard that my fingers groped at that old silver door handle. I noticed mottled rust dusting the knob's curve, noted tiny words etched into the setting before my fingers found the silver. The moment they did, the monster's footsteps ceased. Everything ceased. The wind died, those leaves stilled. "Did we do it?" I asked with a shuddery breath. "Mr. Ryder, did we do it?" I coughed again, then pulled myself upright, keeping both my hands wrapped securely around the silver doorknob. Its coolness pressed against my fingers, and I glanced up at Mr. Ryder. He had a hand mashed over his forehead, and now, finally, allowed himself to pant. "Yeah," he gasped into the pinking sunset. "Yeah, we did it." "Yeah!" I exclaimed. I made to turn the door handle, and I asked, "But wait, where did that monster go?" I saw Mr. Ryder's face blanch, and his fingers stretched out to stop me. Too late, though. The door swung open with a hollow creak, and I opened my mouth to scream as that monster pounced us. I thought I heard Mr. Ryder cough something out about the monster faking chasing us so he could get us once we got inside, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure of anything, just that I saw a huge, black, cloaked thing dive at me. Fingers like ice yanked me headlong into that house just then.